Hello and welcome back to Addicts Go Sailing. As you can see, we have Mingulay in the garden now, finally, and I've got to do some work on her because she's in need of some TLC. So in this episode, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of the new boat and show you what I need to do to her. So let's get cracking. Now, before I get started on the boat tour, a lot of you are going to have questions why a trimaran over, say, a monohull, like I have done. And the main reason is, while I'm still into small boats, I think it's a good option to go and play with multi-hulls while they're still relatively small and affordable. And the chances are you're not really going to get a multi-hull when you go to bigger boats, so might as well try it now. And for trailer sailing, I think the trimaran will be a little bit better for towing around and going to sea places, because it'll have a longer cruising range down to its speed, and it's going to be a bit more comfortable because of the space, the deck space, the internal space, having a cooker that's fixed with the grill, might I mention. So it should be a fun little upgrade, and I'm excited to see how I find it. Now, sailing it back was quite enjoyable, but I couldn't really sail it properly. One, due to the lack of wind, and two, because there are some problems with this boat. So I'm going to jump into it and show you all those problems now. I'll start on the outside and then we'll head inside. But before that, I also discovered more history about this boat that I didn't know before. When I bought her, there are a few papers stating that it was once hurricane damaged and that it was repaired down at Southampton. But that was it, and I didn't think much of it really. And then I got in contact with the old owner and found out that it'd blown off its mooring and onto the rocks in Scotland somewhere. I have since managed to find the repairs, and it consists of the starboard armour having been reglassed on the underside, but unfortunately not with the honeycomb core, but just solid glass. And the same just under the cockpit area of the main hull. So overall, not too bad. The more concerning thing about this boat is the damage it sustained from the transportation accident, as I think it compressed the compression post into the centerboard, which meant the roof had dropped down by an inch or two, which was why the water's pooling. I didn't know this at the time I filmed it, so see if you can spot the telltale signs that I hadn't yet strung together. Right, I'm going to start at the pointy end. Now, as you can see, I have it sat on this trailer. This isn't the trailer I'm actually going to be using, it's just a temporary trailer for now. But the new trailer I'm going to have is going to have to be able to hold this thing properly, and it needs to be a little bit longer than this trailer is currently. The most tricky thing about getting a new trailer is getting the right size, obviously, but the other thing to think about is when these armors fold in, they pretty much sit on top of those wheel arches at the minute, so the boat's got to sit up high enough so that the armors don't clash and hit the wheels, because you don't want that. And the other issue is actually supporting the boat. Now, most trailers actually have bunks or rollers, unlike this, where it's got to be a cradle and a series of posts that come up to meet the hull, which we have not got because we do not have the original trailer. Now, being an American boat, it's an American trailer, so there's no chance of getting that made up and brought here. So we're going to have to do a custom jobby, and we're going to have to make the frames and do all that stuff ourselves. So that's one of the main priorities, because I can't really go anywhere without a trailer. Now, the trailer I need is 3.5 ton, and it needs to be at least 30 foot long, if not longer, because with the mast down, it's quite a long boat. So hopefully I can find that and get that made up. Now, while we're on the ground here, I'll show you this. This is one of the hinge pins and the brackets and the fiberglass frame that allow the armor here to slide forward and swing in. So this piece of fiberglass kind of fits in this little cavity here, and that's how it folds up, and it goes quite compact really, because the hard floor actually slots underneath this, which is quite a smart design really. I do have to do quite a lot of work with rusty bolts, and underneath here these were loosening off. I will be replacing every single one of these cross-headed bolts, because you ought to strip them eventually, and when I was trying to tighten them up in Jersey, it was quite a pain. And I think these lock nuts underneath here have seen better days because they don't really lock anything up because they were coming loose. And if those come loose, you get a bit of play, you get elongating of the holes in the fiberglass, and it's just not a good day. Now, flipping around to the other side, you can see the other side of that big pin, and then there's a second big pin there with another sort of triangulated bracket. Those same bolts that go underneath here, so all of those will be replaced. And there's 4 of these, so there's a lot of bolting and unbolting to do. Hopefully I can find the right size, because being an American boat, it's probably all going to be imperial, where I'm in the UK, everything's metric. It's just more superior than imperial, if you know what I mean. Sorry, you Americans. The main hull itself, very good condition. It's copper coated. We will have to redo the boot stripe because, yeah, you can see where barnacles have just gone on it, and yeah, it just hasn't been cleaned or looked after, so it needs redoing, and that'll clean up the boat quite a lot. The bottom itself is copper coat, and you can see in certain places where it looks like barnacles are stuck onto it, it's just popped off. Mainly just there, and then a couple of other nicks that I've seen, so that can quite easily be sanded. You can get copper coat and you can do like a touch up, because all it is epoxy with copper mixed in. But being a trailer sailor, it shouldn't really matter too much, but I do need to jet wash it because it's still quite grimy. Now if you look on this armor here, you can see a repair that's been done. It's quite common for these trimarans to get like stress cracks and things like that. It's just that this repair is particularly hideous. If you look there, you can see where they've kind of like cut straight lines in the tabbing of whatever they were fixing, and then they've just slapped on some gel coat with, I don't know, probably a big scraper there. You can see where they just slobbered it on. So it's not the most aesthetically pleasing, but it probably is strong enough. That's like a small detail that can be cleaned up at a later date, but for sailing it makes no difference at all. But yeah, look, just look at all that rusty rubbish there. There's a lot of gel coat work that's needed on this boat, but yeah, a lot of it's just cosmetic work, and I like to go sailing, so cosmetic work is not something I like to do. But I think I'm gonna have to do quite a lot of learning in terms of gel coat, because I haven't really dealt with gel coat before. I've done a lot of fiberglassing, mostly polyester, but yeah, gonna have to learn about gel coat. Now looking at the front one of these armors, we've got a nice stainless steel ramming thing, which is probably quite handy to have, but you can see on the top where obviously you whack your nose on things and you just get stress cracks, and it all down here. So it's exactly the same on the other side, same problems. If I just cross over, you'll see exactly the same. Could probably polish up this stainless steel, but yeah, nice crack, and something you don't want. And this one has been repaired before. You can kind of see where the gel coat's been, kind of this crazing crack here kind of like carries on to about there. Then you got a little bit more here. Also need to jet wash the boat. But the one big problem I found is there's just so many little crazings everywhere on this boat, and like repairs like this that need doing. Some places like here, absolutely no crazing at all until you get to here. So there's always going to be something somewhere, but I think the best thing to do is just take it one step at a time, because you can fix all these kind of crazing things. You can either do it the slow way, which is grind out all the little crevices, fill it, and then sand it, and then buff it and all that, or you can just sand back the whole lot and then try and spray it. But when you're trying to deal with like these gripped surfaces, it's quite a pain to do. So yeah, that's something that's going to be done over time. The other annoying thing is removing these graphics, because that stuck on really well, these little graphics here. But here, this is my worst nightmare, because what they've done is they've painted from about where the S is on that soloway with white paint, and then painted over it with this blue, probably the same paint they use for the boot liner. Now coming around to the back of the boat, you can see the other hinge system on the rear, and you can also see like that. Why is that raised up? Not good. Why is there two missing ones there with the holes that have never been drilled through? That's another thing. These looking quite rusty. They're meant to be stainless steel. Same up here, a little bit rusty. And if these pins break, the whole thing shears off, and I've seen a picture of one of these before where something similar's happened, and it's something you don't want. So I'm probably going to remove all of these bits and bobs, inspect them, check them, and then if they need welding, take them to my welder. You can also see little repairs here and there I'm guessing that's for this up here, these little boardwalks you get. Again, more damage. There should be a little trim piece similar to this white stuff that runs the whole edge just to protect it from chafing and rubbing on each other. But yeah, just random repairs like that just need cleaning up, because that should be gel coated. There's like runs on it, but at least it's been repaired, I guess. That's one positive you can assume. Underneath here you can see these lines. These lines here actually tension up the trampoline, and this one here is to actually pull the, you can see when I pull it, it pulls the armour itself back. Now that is quite important, because when you push this armour forward, that's going to loosen off, but then you pull it again and it actually pulls it in tight to the boat, so it's like double purpose. Quite interesting. I kind of like this design. It's kind of cool little system, and you can do that from the cockpit, but to initially close it you have to go up the front and help push it round. This little design here where you can actually fold these armours in means that I can save quite a bit of money in the marina, although I don't really go to marinas ever, but that is an option. Being a 28-foot boat, instead of being classed as a trimaran, I can be classed as a monohull technically. So I still get the same benefits as you would with the monohull, but I just get better speed and performance. Now another interesting thing is this bucket. This bucket supports the outboard, and you can see it's pretty simple, just fiberglass bucket, rail hooks it up there, and then you've got like a little pulley system up there, and the steering goes through there. There's a little bit of chafe, but I assume that's because this is a different outboard and it's not really adjusted very well, so that's why it's been doing that. But it's a pretty good system, because you can lift this bucket out of the water and get no resistance at all from this dragging in the sea. That means you can go quite a bit faster, not having to drag this outboard through the water. And also this outboard itself is an electric tilt, so from the cockpit I can actually tilt this outboard up, and it's an electric start, which is really handy, pretty fancy too. But the only thing with this outboard which I don't like is that it's a 9.8 horsepower. Now this boat comes fitted normally with about 20 horsepower, and I think that's about right, because when I was motoring back, top speed like a motor was about 6 to 7 knots. I want to try and get 20 horsepower if I can, but if not, this is perfectly fine. It does about 4 litres of petrol per hour of running, and that's at full whack. Now we did use quite a lot of fuel on the way back because there was no wind, but we did make it. Now coming around to the back, you can see this is my rudder. This swings up, swings down, and the whole mechanism that sorts all this out needs sorting out, because when you're at anchor it rattles around quite a lot, which is a little bit annoying, so I want to kind of figure that out. And the way to do that is playing around with all of these steering linkages and bushings and all sorts of things. I also want to chuck some paint down to actually clean this up, because it just looks messy and there's like rusty bolts. So any rusty bolt on this boat is getting changed for 316. It's probably going to cost quite a bit, but hopefully I have a few leftover bolts from Mingulay. It did bind up on me once with this actually bound all the way over and I couldn't steer back, and that was when I was in the marina, so I had to quickly open this hatch and jiggle it a bit. So definitely one area that needs sorting, because steering is very important. Now back underneath the boat, you probably can't see, there's a big slot in the middle of the boat. That's where the centerboard goes. Let me show you the centerboard. Right, that's the centerboard. It's upside down, but I removed it, and this was what was actually broken when I realised. So we sailed all the way back with no centerboard effectively, but I'm quite glad that I've got this bit, because I could make a new one, which I'm gonna have to do. At least it's still got the bit of profile that I need to be able to get the same kind of aerofoil shape. The holes that are there still, there's a rope pulley system that kind of rolls around the top side that's inside the shed. But yeah, you can see what it's made out of, just probably a few inches thick, 2 inches thick of ply, and I think it just absorbed water, weakened, and then eventually snapped. Right, let's get up on this boat. Nice little ladder, probably need some bolting stuff doing. Now, the cockpit. Not a whole bunch of work needs doing in here. In these lockers at the side, I'm going to do a bit of tidying up. Paint, cleaning, looks a bit mank in there. just a general tidy up. You can see the other side of some of those bolts for the bracket, for the folding system. We're also going to move the autopilot pin to where it should be located, which is somewhere here, and that means we're going to have to move the pin wherever it is on this to somewhere about there, and do the whole installation of the Raymarine tiller pilot. We're going to pinch it off Mingulay, because we're actually going to get some Raymarine gear on this. It's already got some Raymarine gear, but we're going to get some brand new stuff kindly sent over by Raymarine. We're going to get the 9-inch display, whack that right in there, if it'll fit, and then we're going to transfer over that tiller pilot, as well as using the wind vane that's at the top of the mast already, that's fitted, so that'll plug directly in, and then we'll hook it all up and have it running nicely with a few new sensors for in the water for reading depth, water speed and things like that. Now the other thing to think about in the cockpit is like fit and finish, because like, why is there just a bunch of random cables that go to nowhere? Why is this hole like this and not like protected properly with just screws half placed in there? And then again, you've got loads of little crazing and weird finishes on gel coats here and there, like little craze cracks there. Yeah, just a bunch of places like open holes, and that's absolutely terrible because this is a balsa core deck hull. The holes themselves are actually used like some honeycomb looking stuff, which is quite fancy, but the deck mold itself actually uses balsa. Now I did check it as much as possible, but I'm rebedding absolutely everything. I'm fixing holes like this and getting them sorted. Basically everything. These frames at the side here need rebedding. A lot of them are pulling out, especially this side. It's terrible. It's like you can just rip it. Another job on the list is this little spray hood. You can see the window's messed up, doesn't fit properly when you're grinding on the winch. Let's get the winch. Your handle hits, so we're gonna have to make some adjustments, slide it forward on the thing, tilt it up, make it fit with one of this mast raising frames. I'm gonna outsource that job because I do not have the ability to sew this stuff up and make it nice, so we're gonna get someone in for that. Now in this other locker, we've actually got the gas bowl. We have a spare gas bottle as well, but this is where the feed runs and runs it into the cooker. I think it's completely sealed in this box, so it should be quite safe, but I always turn the gas on and off. Yeah, you get a little bit of storage in these lockers, but not crazy amount. Mostly for ropes and bits and bobs, nothing massive. I wouldn't put fenders in here at all. I'd stick those in the armors, in the little hatches. And speaking of the armors, let's go out here. So, going out the deck, you've got nice little steps that walk you up. Some boats don't have spray hoods, so you can actually walk out across the front. One annoying thing is that the sheets run back to the turning block there and to there, so you get like a little trip hazard here, but I just step over that. It's alright if you've got long legs. So any vertically challenged people might have a difficult time, but I really love this walkway that it's got on the side here, because instead of stepping down into the armour, you can just walk along here, access anything on the roof, and yeah, a little shortcut to the bow, which is nice. But just as well, you can walk down onto the actual armour, which is nice, step down. One annoying thing is this chamfer here. The amount of times I've gone to walk off the bow and step there and nearly stacked it has been ridiculous. So I'm gonna have to, I don't know, stick some grippy stuff on it or something, or I don't know, just learn not to step there. But up here you can see again a bit more repairs that I'm gonna have to do. It's all gel coat kind of stuff. Same here, you can see where it's been wearing because it hasn't got that little protective thing, so I'm gonna have to get that protective thing and then kind of fix this with some gel coat. In the actual armor itself, it's like pretty good condition itself. Like, is that dirt or is that a crack? Probably a crack. But the main problem with the armors is these hatches. Firstly, if you notice here, back here, the guy changed the hatches to try and make them fit better, because it's common on these boats that these hatches leak. So I'm gonna have to, I don't know, either get different hatches again to see if I can find something that fit better, or modify these ones, because at the minute I can't really open them all the way. I think they collide on that side, so maybe if they move this way a little bit, but I might be better off just grinding a little bit of plastic off each corner to allow it to raise up all the way, because having it go to there is mildly annoying because it'll just fall back down. But also, this isn't even bolted down. It looks like they just used butyl tape and squashed it. So as you can see in the bottom there's a little bit of water by the bilge pump. So I'm gonna have to sort that out somehow. And you can just see how the water sits in it because there's no real channels allowing it to run out. So something I would quite like to do is, see where it goes here, is kind of gouge out a little channel to allow the water to flow out. So otherwise it just sits there and it'll probably get in eventually, which is quite annoying. This chain plate leaks, so I'm gonna have to take this off and rebed it. You can see where we've just used butyl tape to try and stem the leak so it doesn't just go in all the time until I get around to it. Luckily the windows are all good, don't have to worry about them, they don't leak at all, they look nice condition, so it's one thing I haven't got to worry about. Apart from that, the arms themselves, not too bad, just cosmetic stuff and sorting out the leaky hatch. Now if we go up on the bow, we've got the anchor locker. This is another little project I've got to do. Is, if you look at it, you can't really see, but it's a little bit flexible. It's not the strongest because it's meant to be lightweight, this boat, but it's too lightweight. So I'm gonna have to strengthen it up on the underside here. Maybe add little fiberglass ribs or something, then gel coat it in, tidy up the hatch anyway because it's got little cracks crazing everywhere on it. Be a bit tricky on this stuff. You can see around the edge where it's got it, but that's another little job. But inside here you can also see the bowsprit that leads out the front of the boat, and it's got like this pulley system that you can see runs one side and also comes to the back here, mounts on that little bulkhead. And all I've got to do is pull this rope and it slides the pole in and out. So, and if I pull this way it'll go the other way, but that's how you get the bowsprit out. You can also push it from the inside because this actually sticks out on the inside next to the toilet. But yeah, that's where the screecher or spinnaker will be attached. So luckily I finally get a spinnaker and a screecher, although I have to get them made up because the spinnaker that came with the boat is quite small, probably like half the size it needs to be. So I'm gonna get new ones made up and get a screecher because that'd be quite useful. Now if we shut that up, you're wondering where my anchors are. I threw them out. So there's a massive 15 kilogram claw, way oversized to this boat, and then there's some like plow looking anchor, fairly decent one, but the chain on it's absolutely horrid. It said TRIMARAN, maybe lightweight, so I'm actually going to use the anchor that I have on Mingulay because perfect size, 8 kilogram, should be the perfect size for this boat. Should be able to fit it in the anchor locker as well, so it should be quite a nice little upgrade. And I might even keep that plow one in the anchor locker with a bit of Rhodes for like a second anchor to throw off the rear, or double anchor or backup anchor, because it's going to be fairly lightweight and will do the job if I ever need it. Another job that I'm going to have to do is this railing here. Now you can kind of see where that bowsprit comes out. You can see here as well, these bolts aren't really bolted down very well, and if I jiggle this you can kind of see it's not really bolted in. So there's this access panel, I've had a look, there's no actual way to tighten these bolts up, they're just in there. I don't know how they would have done it, because there's fiberglass in there that surrounds the tube for the bowsprit, so you can't actually get a nut on it. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way. Apart from that, on the front we've got an outlet for waste because we actually have a holding tank on here for the toilet, so that's where that goes out. Double barrel roller, which is nice for the anchors. Nav light, got to check those work, make sure it's wired up properly, LEDs and all that. You've got a Furlex furling system, 200S, so it's got like a twin slot so you can put 2 sails up and whatever. I just got to check that works, make sure it's functioning properly, bearings are good and things like that. Apart from that, it's bolted on nicely, which is good. Now on this armour you've got same kind of gel coat repairs that you're doing, the same problem with the hatch. Trampoline's fine, nothing too different. This boardwalk on this side is a bit better condition, but I still got to do some gel coat bits here and there. Now you can see on the roof here we've got 2 hatches. We're going to replace those because they leak and they're probably original, so it's about time they got changed. And funnily enough, the hatch I used on Mingulay is the perfect size to fit, so I'm going to order up some more of those. Now one thing I do find annoying on this boat is how around the mast there it dips down, because it just holds water. You can see it just collecting water, and there's no physical way for it to drain out anywhere apart from the boat leaning. And being a TRIMARAN, it doesn't really lean, so that is quite annoying, and that means it probably collects up behind this hatch itself and makes it easier for water to get in. So that's going to have to be sorted. We turn our attention to the mast. This mast is brand spanking new, maybe a year or two old. When the guy bought the boat before, he had it transported down from Scotland, and they bent the mast, the original mast, in shipping. So he got a nice free mast out of it, and yeah, I'm quite happy because it's a nice new mast. But the one problem was this mast raising system wasn't fitted and hadn't been fitted for probably 10 years, and it was bent, bits broken. I've had to get things welded on it to actually get this mast up. But you'll see that in a coming episode, me figuring out this whole mast raising system. But it's very, very clever. It kind of like pivots up, kicks forward, and there's one rope, that blue line, which you pull, attach it to the winch on the back of the boat, and you can just lift the mast straight up, easy. You don't actually have to take any of this stuff off when you go sailing, you just leave it attached. Apart from like the ropes that go across there, you have to remove those. But everything else stays on, and then that means when you come to the dock, you can just drop the mast almost immediately. There's 2 bolts there, and you just let it swing forward, and that's lovely for when you have to set up the boat as well, because you can do it solo, and you can do it in about 5 minutes, getting the mast up, and then however long you want to take, going around, attaching the furler, checking tension on the rigs and the shrouds on the side. This system is probably one of the best systems you can get, and it has to be because it's a massive mast. There'd be no way you could raise it conventionally like I have on Mingulay. Now, if we're just looking at this system here, you can see it's got a frame that goes around there. I think it's called frame C. This frame up here is D. This is frame B, and that's frame A. Frame A and B take most of the load for the entire lift, and then this frame and this frame do the last 6 inches, it says, foot to 6 inches. So when this mast gets almost all the way down, this bit kicks up and rests on the back of the mast, and there's like a halyard that pulls through the base of the mast, and you can kind of see it here where that blue rope pulls through the mast, and then this kind of extends out and allows this frame to kick back. But it's very cool, and I absolutely love it. Now back to the cockpit, step in. Now the winches on here are probably original. You can see fast speed, slow speed, very nice, self-taining as well. And then you've got clutches in here. They need to be labelled up properly and checked. Now if you go inside of the boat, got to kind of loosen it off, and I think we're going to replace these as well because they're just mank at the minute. I think this one's turning green. You can kind of see the green tinge to it. Not great. You've also got this here. That shouldn't do that, so I'm going to have to replace that or just fix it better, because it looks like it's just rounded out whatever hole it's screwed into. So those are going to have to come off, put back on, made nice. Yeah, we pop that off and step down into the boat. Right, let's turn on the cabin lights. Ta-da! Got blown bulb there. Over there, fitted LEDs. Well, this is the boat. Sorry for the mess, because, you know, we're in project mode at the minute. But you can see, fairly decent size down here. This is me standing up perfectly. So, not quite, I'm 6'1", 6'2". So, if you're about, I don't know, 6 foot or less, you'll probably be fine. But standing here, I'm right by the galley, so I can actually stand up when I'm cooking. Same when I move to the middle where the table is. When this hatch is, like, at a minute I'm standing straight up, my head's just touching this hatch, which I probably pop some of the time. And then same at the front, if that hatch is popped, I could stand there. But bowing my head a little bit is pretty good, because on Mingulay I'd be like this. So definitely an improvement, but very roomy, spacious interior. Underneath the cockpit, you've got like a 1.5 berth, not really a 2-person thing unless you want to be cozy. I did sleep in there on the first night in Jersey, and it actually wasn't terrible. So yeah, it might be a good option. You have another berth across that side, and then you have a berth on this side. There have been some modifications, well, not really modification, I think it came standard. You can see with there's like screw holes here. I have some brackets, and there's like wooden bars that go across, but I think that's how they make a double here. And getting that double bed working would be quite a nice option to have, because who wouldn't want more room? The other thing as well is this table. This actually folds out, and I think this leg is too long because you can kind of see how it like tilts up at this end, and that means it when you try and fold it over, it just whacks onto the compression post there. So that's another thing to modify. These are all small things really, but these are all small little things to fix. Forward there, you can see where the toilet is. Down there's like technically a berth, feet down that end and stuff. And down here you have the toilet, and this little cover folds over. Nice and mank. This folds over, this goes over the board there, covers up, that's where the holding tank is, and fenders, ropes, some other stuff. Definitely the smelly end of the boat. It needs cleaning and re-sorting and everything, and yeah, just in general a tidy up. But yeah, that's a berth. This side, the double berth kind of thing. You also got these curtains that go all the way around the windows, which is nice. These little blinds that pop down, which is pretty good. There is like a shower rail here, because in some boats this is like a shower area. Now up front here, we've got quite a big storage area in that corner, another big storage area in that corner. So that's quite a good bit of storage. This is the toilet. Yeah, this broke on the way over. Luckily it was on the last day, so we didn't actually need it. But yeah, there's a manual pump, original to the boat. Needs fixing, sorting out. What I'll probably do is try and replace it with like an electric conversion where I can keep this toilet bowl, because you can see where the floor is down there. The actual height I have to play with is not anywhere near enough. I've done some research. You can't get very many toilets that kind of fit this kind of height. So I think an electric conversion where I can use this toilet bowl and bolt that on will work quite well. I'll replace all of these hoses and plumbing bits because they would have seen their day. Probably original still. Now underneath here, just underneath the toilet, looking forward, you can see big seacock and a little seacock. They're 4-spar, I think, 4-spar. They're pretty nice seacock, quite expensive, like £100 each or something. So I'm quite happy to keep them, but I think I do want to replace them eventually because they're probably original. But this one does the discharge straight out the toilet when it's not going to the holding tank. And this one over here does a few things. It's like a 3-way. So it does the saltwater intake for obviously the flush for the toilet, but it also has the valve to shut it off completely, like it should do. But then you also have, there's like another pipe attached to it, because it actually allows the fresh water that comes out this little sink here to drain down into there, to allow you to pump out fresh water into the toilet bowl, which is quite good because it allows you to not have salty seawater in your toilet when you leave it for a long amount of time, because that's where the smell comes from leaving salty water in your toilet bowl, because of the algae and planktony stuff in seawater. When it dies, you get that kind of eggy smell, which is what I'm smelling now if you could actually have smell-o-vision. All the plumbing in here, not terrible. I'll probably keep the drainage lines because they're fine, don't really care about those. Right, now moving back a little bit, you can see this weird wooden box, and inside there is like a, I think it's just a speed, well you can see it here, this is a plug in it at the minute, this is the speed transducer. I don't know why they positioned it there, probably because they want like an accurate reading at the front of the boat and to get it sooner. But having that box there is a little bit annoying. You whack your feet on it the whole time, and it is another hole in the boat because there is also another transducer hole over there, so you can get a trijuicer which does all 3 sensor readings in one. So I'll probably put that back there and get rid of this hole possibly, because yeah, you knock your feet when you go into the toilet, and it's just one area you don't want it when in there, it can be hidden. So that's going to be done. Now in the middle of the boat, you saw earlier when I showed you underneath and the broken centerboard, this is the centerboard casing here, and there's a little pin that goes right through here, which you can see here that I've removed. Needs cleaning up. Again, it's a little bit manky, but yeah, that slides in there, and then you put a winch handle on and you can spin that, and that's what raises and lowers the centerboard, and you can kind of see into the casing in there. You can see the little grooves where the plates come up, and there's a pulley system in there. But I had to pull all that, dismantle it to actually remove the centerboard. So I've got to put the new centerboard in there, reseal it, because you don't want water leaking out of these little holes. So that's another big job to do. Now if we come down to the back here, now this is the water tank, goes to about there, and it's got a little divider, stops it from sloshing about, but inside it needs a bit of a repaint because it's a bit dirty and stuff, and all the hoses that come off it need to be replaced, so I'll be replacing that. The hoses for that run underneath here and come up to the sink here, and the salt water pump up there runs down. You can kind of see where everything runs, a few cables in there too. Runs down the side into this floor area. You can see where that other transducer hole fitting is. So that's the one we're keeping. See the bilge pump, you can see this saltwater seacock here. It's metal, so that is immediately getting replaced and cut out. We're going to replace it with True Design, which will be brilliant. But another thing you can see is this weird fiberglass patch here. So I don't know, it did have this pump screwed onto it, so I don't know whether they just whacked that down to be able to screw this pump to it. But I'm going to try and peel that off. Kind of see back there where they've done a bit of extra fiberglass work there, maybe they had a bit of crack going on. And also on this back wall here, you can kind of see where they've tried fiberglassing it to this wall here, probably to stop some movement or something, so I just need to clean it up. Underneath here, not too much work needs doing, might tidy it up a bit, but mostly cosmetic. It did come with that life raft, which is nice, but it's a bit of a pain to figure out where to put it, because having it underneath there is practically useless. And finding somewhere on deck will be a little bit tricky, but hopefully I can figure it out. Now in terms of the cooking arrangement, we've got hob, and then the grill. Very nice. You can see where we've had cheese on toast. Underneath, a nice cutlery drawer. Brilliant, love it. In there, again, a little bit of storage and then access to like the plumbing and a bit of electrics. And then underneath, you've got these little sliding doors which got a decent amount of storage for stuff, which is nice. Same on the other side again. And then up top, you've got a nice deep storage bin back here. Bit tricky to access everything in there, but a decent amount of storage space, which is quite hard to come by on a trimaran. Nice little shelf that runs all the way around the side. Nice bit of, you don't get too much work. Now if we turn our attention to this side of the boat, we've got a like nav station kind of area with our electrical switch panels, kind of in a state right now. This one's even got a broken switch. But yeah, very nice there because they're breakers. They automatically flip off, so you don't have fuses. I think they're all 15 amp though, so you probably still need to fuse things, or you can get replacement breakers for whatever size you want, and they're not too expensive. The expensive part is the whole backlit kind of system and lights and whatnot. Like each breaker I think is about £15, so it's not too bad. You've also got these switches here, but I'm replacing it because I think I'm going to get another one of these switch panels to match on that side. So we can have, because I need about 12 switches anyway, and it'll match, and it'll also allow me to cover up dodgily made holes over here, because there's like a hole there that shouldn't be made. It's like a crooked hole there. I don't know why someone drilled a hole there, made the wire come out there and go up there when it can just go through and then up. Just doesn't make any sense, because I had pulled off this panel. You can see where the wires run back there. But that'll be a nice little upgrade to get an extra switch panel in there. And then if we fold up this little panel here, you can fold it all the way, but I won't. You can see underneath here, I've got a little torch. There's a tiller pilot that came with the boat, which is nice. You get a good amount of storage space underneath here. So you can see underneath here, you've got 2 batteries, lead acid. They're probably what? I'm going to guess at about 70 amp hours each. They're pretty much dead, so they're getting replaced. I'm going to use the lithium battery that's in Mingulay and use that, and that'll fit right in there, take up less space a little bit, be a bit more efficient, lots more battery storage. But the main thing to figure out is how to integrate that with the outboard, because the outboard's electric start, electric tilt, and I don't know how that works with the lithium battery. Apart from that, everything is fused back here, nice big on-off switches, although that isolator doesn't actually do anything. In position all, both batteries are on. In 2, nothing's on. Off, nothing on. 1, both are on. So I don't know how the hell they've wired that up, but it needs changing. Over on this side, a lot more mess. There's random like household looking wires in here, so it just all needs changing. Little charge controller for, they did have a wind vane on here, so I think that's what that's for. I don't think we're going to get one again. All the wiring in this boat is going to get gone through and changed over and replaced if it's dodgy looking, because I want nice solid electronics. Apart from that, in there's a really good place to store all my tools, which is good to have. And off to the side here, we do have the VHF that's fitted. We're going to get this replaced with some nice Raymarine gear, which I'm quite excited for, because this seems quite old. It's not, I don't even think it's fitted in properly. I could pull it out, yeah. Just the fit and finish on this boat is absolutely terrible at the minute. It's, yeah, hasn't seen the best days. So that's a little tour of Mingulay as she sits at the minute. And we've got a bit of work to do. We're in February now, and I kind of want to go sailing in April. So I've been ordering all sorts of stuff, stainless steel nuts and bolts, about 150 quid in those. That's how expensive 316 nuts and bolts are. Finally, a big thank you to you, because you're watching these videos and that's allowing me to do all these kind of things, and it's a lot of fun, and I really like sharing my adventures, and it's really good talking to you in the comments and actually messaging people, hearing stories about the boats they've got, what they're doing, boat projects, they're sailing in similar areas, or they just want to ask questions about things. So if you do have any questions about this boat or what I'm going to do with it, anything you want to know, or if you have any suggestions, more importantly, because well, I've only been looking at this boat through my eyes. If you're looking at it through your eyes and you've got different ideas or solutions or things that you think I should be doing, let me know in the comments down below, because I'm quite excited to get this boat on the water, get a test sail done hopefully in the Solent, give it a shake down once I've faffed about with a bunch of stuff and make sure it's working properly, and then also learning how to sail this thing, because I've never sailed a trimaran apart from the test sail I did on the Astus. So I'm quite excited to do that whole learning process and see how different it really is from Mingulay, because I've only ever experienced Misumi and Mingulay sailing out in the Solent and the sea, so it'd be quite exciting to see how well it performs and how different it is, and see if it's as good as people say or as bad as people say. So I'm quite excited for that. So yeah, leave your comments down below, and thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.